Just hello everyone, this is part 2 of the lesson, all right? And this is where I'm going to show you how to respond to, or rather write a well thought out essay response, right? I'm using a group of frogs, and just to remind you, this is not one of the prompt questions you can use in the essay. This is just an example to guide you. So what are some of the challenges the frogs face in the story? The group of frogs. How do the challenges of the frogs remind you of challenges other people face? Now there's a few things that I'm seeing right here. The essay question is asking me the challenges the frogs face, and what do their challenge remind me, or how do their challenge remind me of the challenges people face, right? Now I can do 2 challenges, right, and 1 reminders, or I can do 1 reminder, right? I can do 1 challenge and 2 reminders, right? Either or. In this essay, I am going to do 2 challenges and 1 reminders. Now, the group of frogs we all looked at before, and we were studying theme, right? And we had a whole different amount of themes and thoughts and ideas about the story. Essentially, the frogs were traveling together. 2 of them fell into a pit, right? And when the 2 were trying to get out of the pit, the others that didn't fall into the pit were discouraging them, telling them to stay down, to just die and give up. 1 frog gave up. The other kept trying. He eventually got out, and when he got out, he figured that the frogs wanted to know why or how he got out. And as I made the changes in the last part, right, he pretty much told them that he thought that they were encouraging him even though he was deaf, right? So he just figured maybe they want to know. So the introduction now is where I'm going to go to. So notice I have my question up here already. Introduction paragraph says that that you need the text, the author, and what the story was about. 4 more sentences. You could pretty much put the author's name in 1 sentence, the text in 1 sentence, and tell me what the story is about in 2 sentences, or you could do it your own way, just making sure you have 4 sentences. So notice, introduction, the story. The group of frogs is a story about a few frogs traveling through the woods, and then 2 of them fell in a pit. That's 1 sentence. Despite both of them trying to get out of the pit, one of them managed to do so because he thought he was being encouraged by the other frogs. That's my 2nd sentence. The author is unknown, right? And then in the last the last part I said, however, the relevance of the story is that it shows people never to give up. That's my 4th sentence. I'm making sure that I connect with my questions, but I'm really telling what the story was about. Now I'm gonna go to the conclusion real quick, because we always want to start with the end in mind, what we want to do by the end of the essay. So this is my conclusion here, right? My conclusion is what's expected of me. My conclusion is that what can be learned from my essay and the novel of the text with 2 or more reasons. Now it's the same with anything. By the end of the lesson, students will be able to do whatever particular skill that was the objective, right? By the time you reach a certain age, you expect to do certain things. By the time I reach to the grocery store, I want to make sure that I get these things, or by the time I leave the grocery store, right? So those are goals that you have by the time you finish something. So starting with the end in mind. So looking at my conclusion here, right? This is what I have. It asks me for 3 or more sentences, right? I need to tell what can be learned from my essay with at least 2 reasons. So one thing people should learn from this story and the essay is that creating their own pathway in life is necessary. Instead, while in the pit, he, the frog, right? And so I have to be clear next time. He, the frog, right, kept jumping, creating his own belief in his mind to get out. That's what I'm saying right there. That's a reason why he had to create his own path. And then my last sentence, it says, still, the story probably also shows that a person will learn through experience as well. And of course, my reasoning for saying that is that, hey, this frog is probably going to follow these group of frogs and realize that they're not really friends, right? So that's pretty much what I'm thinking about, which I mentioned in my essay. So let's go through the body paragraphs now. All right, so now we're at the body paragraphs, right? I am going to, I guess not necessarily speed through, but I want to make sure that I show my topic sentences for each as I go through them, right? So this is my first body paragraph. Race is a strategy that we're using, right? R, A, C2, and E2, meaning that you need to have two evidences and two explanations in each body paragraph. You need to have a answer, a restate, and an answer as well. Okay, so this is my first body paragraph, right? And it says one of the challenges the frogs faced was the struggle to get out of the hole despite not having positive encouragement. Obviously, that's my RA, my restate and answer, right? Then I get to my first evidence. In the story, it states in lines 2 to 3. So, of course, citation, page number or line number, quotation marks, right? And exact words from the text. That's evidence. When the other frogs crowded around the pit and saw how deep it was, they told the two frogs that there was no hope left for them. Okay? Now I get to my explanation. There's my citation right there. This shows a lack of encouragement coming from the frogs who did not fall into the pit, obviously. And that's my explanation right there. I pretty much just given an understanding exactly of what the evidence means, right? But I'm also going deeper because they're not giving any encouragement. The fact that they're saying certain things of that telling the frogs to stay down, right? That's not encouragement, right? And it goes back to my topic sentence, right? Making connections, having, right, despite not having positive encouragement, right? You're telling them to stay down. There's no hope left for them. You're giving them a lack of encouragement. Then now I go on to my second evidence, right? Again, citation, right? Opening another evidence is quotation marks, right? And the exact words from the text. Another evidence is one of the frogs took heed to what the others were saying and he gave up. That's a challenge right there. The fact that eventually you just gave up, man, you were struggling so hard to get out and you're gonna give up. It's hard, but it's a challenge, right? So my explanation, that was a C. My explanation is this is important because it suggests that the frog couldn't manage to get out of the pit and eventually believe what the others were saying. So now this is this belief that comes in the frog's mind, and so he decided to give up. And that's my first body paragraph. So notice that was the first challenge I talked about. As I said in the introduction, I'm going to talk about two challenges, which means I'm going to talk about the second challenge, right? So here we go. Additionally, there are a few more challenges the frogs face. Now notice what I did there. Additionally, transition word, because I'm still connecting the information. The information is linked. This paragraph is related to the previous paragraph and related to the entire essay. So transition words are needed. You also have a chart attached to the task when you get the assignment. Okay. So additionally, there are a few more challenges the frogs face. I said few more, but I'm only going to talk about one. All right. You got the RA right here, just the same way. All right. C, E, C, E. In the second paragraph, it states the other frog continued to jump as hard as he could. This shows that it was hard to get out of the pit, and as a result, the frog had to put his best effort forward. He was not going to try with average strength. So again, there's two extra sentences right there. I'm adding more into it, right? So again, I want to make these connections clear and point. Another difficulty, right, was the horrible wishes of the frogs who did not fall in the pit. As it says, the crowd of frogs yelled at him to stop the pain and just die. This is significant since it shows that sometimes other people's words can cause us to struggle. It's a challenge, right? A challenge, and it's difficult. We go through these challenges all the time. So now we've seen these challenges, but guess what? We knew that the second frog, he did not give up, right? And so this is what I put in my third body paragraph, right? The frog's challenges reminds one about the struggles people go through on a daily basis. I'm still making the connections, but now I'm connecting to my second part, the second part of my question, right? Again, it's my third body paragraph, right? I already talked about the two challenges, and now I'm talking about how the challenges remind me of struggles people go through on a daily basis. All right, so that's my R, my A. All right, you restating how do the challenges of the frogs remind you of the challenges other people face. The frogs' challenges reminds one about the struggles people go through on a daily basis. And of course, because of his experiences. So that's where I got my answer, right? Now I have my answer, right? Because of his experiences, right? So yes, I needed to have my R and my A, right? Oftentimes, getting so used to writing, you end up, doing what you're used to, but this is what's necessary, right? Restate and answer. Frog's challenges remind one about the struggles people go through on a daily basis. So now I have my evidence. For instance, in lines 2 to 3 states, when the other frogs crowded around the pit and saw how deep it was, they told the two frogs that there was no hope left for them, right? And so I have to explain, how does this remind? I choose an evidence, but I also explain, how does it remind you of the struggles people go through? There's a struggle right there. I already talk about these struggles. The frogs crowd around the pit, discouraging them is a struggle to keep going when people are discouraging you. However, as we see in my explanation, it says this line shows how some friendships might not be true friendships because the frogs were walking together and then their attitudes changed when two of them fell down the pit. So people struggle with friendship. So I talk about true friendship in that paragraph right here. Then now I look at my next evidence, which is in line 12 to 13, where it states, he then told them that he was deaf and that he thought they were encouraging him the entire time. So of course he thought that they were encouraging him. His mind was working for him when his eyes were pretty much metaphorically closed, figure of speech, right? He can't see, right? So his eyes is close to the truth, but his mind was already working for him, encouraging him. So the explanation is valuable. The evidence is valuable because it shows that a person should always believe in themselves, even when life or other people is not encouraging them, right? And encouraging to them. And that's the explanation, right? Now I know I talked about the conclusion a second time, right? And of course, it's good to write your conclusion last, or even work on it. This is something you understand a little bit more in the future. But you go to your conclusion, right? And you pretty much fix it up. Make sure that it's talking about what can be learned from your essay, right? And what can be improved on your essay as you're reviewing. Now, your task, of course, is what I showed you earlier, right? You go to the assignment, you got the 3 question prompts, and you really respond to those. The transition words chart, as you can see right here, right? Words or phrases to help sequence ideas or transition between sentences or paragraphs, words or phrases to show location, and so on, right? So of course, if you're writing the next paragraph, you might say, firstly, this, or whatever it is that you're starting your essay with, right? You might say, when suddenly, or so on and so forth. If you might talk about justice or Salva or whoever it may be in the books that you all are using, right? The transition words connects information, right? So you want to make sure that you're using, after, next, and don't use only also. I'm going to add another aspect in your words that are similar, to also, because it becomes frustrating when I keep seeing also all the time, right? Additionally is another word, furthermore, and so on, which I'm going to put in here. All the best in your essays, drafts. I look forward to reading them throughout this week. I'm going to keep checking in. It's a lot of information, so take your time, focus on 1-2 paragraphs over the course of the week. Today, for Tuesday, I want to see an intro and even a body paragraph at least by the end of the day. All right, so I'll be checking on your essays as you get them done.